York City. He is nationally recognized as an expert on Pittsburgh jazz history. He is currently active with Blues Orphans, music director of the Jazz Conspiracy Big Band, and his own combos with various configurations. Now, in addition to that, he has numerous recordings with Walt Harper, Nathan Davis, Count Basie, Boilermaker Jazz Band, RH Factor, Roger Humphrey's Big Band, Carlton Hester, and Musicism, and Feeney, Blues Orphans, and Jimmy Walker. Now, when you accomplish all of that, someone has to recognize and appreciate all of that creativity, right? So he's the recipient of numerous awards, including the marquee publication Who's Who in the East, Renaissance 2 Magazine, Professional Men in Jazz Award, the East Liberty Hall of Fame, the Westinghouse High School Hall of Fame, Evolution of Jazz. He is a recipient of the Bridging the Gap Mentor Award, the Walt Harper All That Jazz Award, the Legacy Arts Project Keepers of the Flame Award, the Build the Hill Award, and the Manchester Craftsmen's Guild Pittsburgh Legends of Jazz Award. He is also a recipient of the African American Council on the Arts, Rob Penny Lifetime Achievement Award. In addition to that, he is the founder and creator of Pittsburgh Jazz Network website, jazzburger.ning.com. Will you please join me in welcoming Dr. Nelson Harrison.
Who's that? Okay, well, they said I had half an hour, and that's almost over already. I tried to shorten it, but I'm going to do something. I never do anything in advance. This is going to be jazz. It's going to be spontaneous, because I do everything that way. I teach psychology that way, lecture that way. This is going to be that. So Howie, would you take the stage, the keyboard, please?
All right.
If you'd have done the last set in reverse, it would have shortened the time. I'm going to ask you to play Footprints. And I'm going to sing my lyric, The Footprints, which actually capsulizes everything you're talking about here. We're on a journey like everyone before us. Growing and hoping our parents will adore us while they're watching for us. Follow their footprints and see how far you can go. As we grow older, we're faced with many choices. Trying to find meaning among so many voices, often it annoys us. Look for the footprints and see which way did they go. Millions inhabit this earth, but will we know them? Each has a seed of their own, but never sow them. Most won't even show them. Make shallow footprints and they will soon disappear. Value the gifts you receive from the Creator. Love freely given will multiply its measure. Nothing could be greater. Make your own footprints like every true pioneer. They'll soon make footprints that made it perfectly clear. Okay, that was it. I left out a line. Anyway.
Whoa!
It's never perfect, but you gotta stay in the vibration in order to remember what you're doing when you're performing. Okay. I started playing professionally when I was 13. My first nightclub. I started playing a year and a half before that. And that was 60 years ago. So I've been in this business most of my time in Pittsburgh for that period of time, and I lived what you were looking at. What I want to emphasize today is that we talk about the history almost in a sanitized way, because we leave out the thing that made the history. We leave out the vitamins, the nourishment. What is that? That's the sounds. You heard a few little things like that. But the sounds are what kept people alive, what enabled people to express everything that they were feeling and experiencing in a time when it wasn't acceptable to do so. Now, you notice how the people in those photographs were dressed? They were clean, weren't they? Huh? They didn't have any money. How could they be so clean and not have any money? They had self-respect. That's why. I never saw a black person with low self-esteem in my life before 1970. Check that out. What's going on the planet today that people are walking around like slaves, when the people who were actually in chains, all they thought about was freedom. And now we're supposed to be free, and we got mental chains on us, and we're walking around like sheep. We need to fix that. Jazz can fix that. It fixed it for us, and if you get it, it'll fix it for you. I'm serious. My friend said to me, how come they're not reading music? I said, I'd smack them if they were. What's that got to do with it? Am I reading? I'm not reading anything. Right? We get it backwards here. How many of you know the name of Paul Revere's horse? Nobody does. Because Paul Revere's horse didn't write the history. Okay? And people are writing a history about something they don't really know. And so it stays superficial. And the people who know the history are never being talked to, and they're dying every week. We lost two more just this week. Henderson Thomas, the guitar player, and Charlotte Nelson, Steve Nelson's mother. Used to own the Crazy Quilt Club downtown where we played it. These stories are disappearing. So, since cyberspace and technology got within reach of this old guy, I said, aha, I can tell the story. So I started the Pittsburgh Jazz Network in 2008. We have almost 3,000 members now. We reach every planet, every continent on the planet. And I can reach about 6 million people through that network. Now, you said, use cyberspace, right? Dan, you said, get the information. It's online. You can put your own story online. Accessibility requires accountability. Young people are playing games on the smartphone that would have cost you $2 billion 20 years ago. And this phone's going to be twice as smart in 2 years. Are we going to be twice as smart? But there's some things that technology cannot do. And that are the things that come out of the human experience. And I don't care how sophisticated the robot gets, it's not going to feel human. If you want to feel human, take the sheet music and put it aside and learn how to speak the language. It's how we learned how to speak English, right? We imitated our parents, didn't we? Anybody not do it that way? Did anybody learn English from a book? We are not from America, okay? But you didn't learn your native language from a book, did you? Not until you could speak it. And that's the way the Afro-American Music Institute teaches. It's the way we learn. Yeah, we could read music, but it's not a big deal. Playing it spontaneously, where you're risking your life on every note you play, that's a big deal. And it's never the same way twice. These students they're just starting. I remember when Howie was just starting. Listen to him now. I go get lessons from Howie now. Because he can stand up with anybody on the planet Earth with his keyboard, and they'll respect him. And that's the job of mentorship. The job of mentorship is to make sure that your student exceeds you. And that's what we try to do. This here sings in the boys' choir that won a national championship 2 years ago. We were there. Oh, God. You need to get access and avail yourself of this information that's right in your neighborhood. Don't let anybody tell you you can't go here, you can't go there. The society told the black people they couldn't go here and there. It wasn't the other way around. Black people never told white people you can't go somewhere. Never happened. There's never not been white people in the black community. So, avail yourself of what's there. Now, I put it online. Now, if you're not online today, probably 90 years old or something. But if you are online, I invite you to the Pittsburgh Jazz Network. We have almost 13,000 photos on there. We have over 3,000 videos. You can see the whole thing. I'll keep putting more stuff on. We have sound samples you'd never hear or never be able to buy commercially on there, representing this oral history legacy of Pittsburgh. Because of my age group, I was up close and personal with some of these people. And I had a chance to talk with them and be directly mentored by them from the time I was 12 or 13 years old. These were dreams come true for me. I never thought I'd ever meet Father Heinz, and then in 1975 I was in the Heinz Hall Orchestra, and they brought Billy Eckstein and Father Heinz in there for a week, and I was, you want to hear this? I was the token in the Heinz Hall Orchestra. I was the only black person in it. Okay? But guess what? All the other musicians, we all belonged to the same union, all the other musicians would go and play poker on the breaks, and I'd hang out with Father Heinz and Billy Eckstein on the breaks. I'd hang out with Sammy Davis on the breaks while they were playing poker, because all they were caring about was reading the sheet music and taking a paycheck. Okay? That's not what we do. That's anathema to our tradition. So, the stories that I tell, I got directly from them. I was a music producer for Black Horizons in 68 through 71 with Ralph Parker. And I had a chance to interview Earl Garner, one-on-one. And I was with Walt Harper's band at the time, and they gave Earl the keys to the city at Carnegie Music Hall. And I said, Earl, come over to the studio. I want to interview you. And we sat there. And I have been always trying to be the conscience, because my mentors require me to be as honest and truthful about this history as I know how to be. And I'm not going to play politics when I talk about it. I respect it too much. I said, Earl, let's talk about this reading music thing that everybody, every pundit in the world says Earl Garner was great, but he never learned to read music. Oh, come on. Earl was playing more piano at 3 years old than most people play in their lifetimes. He learned to read music in his 30s. He even went to Juilliard for a year. Huh? You didn't know that, did you? That's not in the history books, is it? But he told me that. I was on Dave Scott's radio show, 1550 AM in the early 90s, and I mentioned that on the air. Phone rang. Lady on the phone on the other end, she says, my name is Johanna Harris. You might know my son, Alan Harris, the jazz singer. Well, Dr. Harrison was telling the truth because I was in class with Earl Garner at Juilliard and he blew everybody away. Okay? That's the truth. Earl said, nobody can hear you read. He said, anything written is less than I'm playing. Why do we make a big deal out of reading music? I read 7 clefs of music and you can't even name 7 clefs of music. And I don't have to transpose them. But I don't need to read any of them. Because I hear it. I hear it. Music is a sound. I'm no longer directing the Jazz Conspiracy Band. I quit. I quit because they're all music teachers. And they couldn't get their head out of the page. And they couldn't hear what I was singing. So I said to them, how much liquid can a cup hold? A couple of them got PhDs. They couldn't answer the question. Can anybody answer that question?
I said a cupful.
What's the answer?
Cupful.
A cup. That's kind of obvious, isn't it? If I had a gallon of water and I tried to pour it into the cup, how much would the cup hold?
Cup.
A cup. What would happen to the rest of the water? It would be wasted. They said, this guy's crazy. Where's he going with this? You're probably saying the same thing. Then I hit him with the left hook. I said, how much music can the eye hold? The answer is 0. The eye can't hold any of them. Why do you think the symphony reads the manual in public? Does any other profession do that? They played that music in high school. We played it in high school. We played Mozart and Beethoven. There's not one new note. Right? Why are we reading it 40 years later, and if you take the page away, they got to stop playing? I tell them this to their face, so, I don't mind saying it. But, how much music can the ear hold? The answer is all of it. And then I said, you're using the wrong organ to play music. When are we going to get that? The greatest pianist, undisputed greatest pianist that ever lived, was who? Art Taylor. He was blind. He was blind. Stevie Wonder plays 21 instruments. He's blind. Ray Charles is blind. Rolmy Don is blind. These people don't need to see. There's sighted people that are handicapped with music because they think this map is the territory. And I guarantee you, if you drive your car reading the map, you're going to wreck, you're going to hit a pothole, you ain't going to get home. Because you're in traffic. And music is traffic. Can you negotiate traffic? You're going to need the tools to negotiate traffic. The sounds that we produce that are never the same, you're going to need the tool of your understanding in your creative mind and your communicative mind in order to do that. Now, you want to talk about the Pittsburgh jazz history? That's what they were doing. That's what they were giving my generation. They were giving us the understanding of the language. And I got it directly from people like Judge Watson. Warren Watson was our mentor. We had a big band when I was 12 years old. We were playing the Glenn Miller book. We were playing the Count Basie book and some stock charts. I never forgot that music because I put it in here. And it's still there. I don't have to reread it. And then every now and then he'd bring Sam Hurt, and sit beside me when he was home from playing with Dizzy Gillespie's big band. And I'm a little kid with a trombone, and Sam Hurt's doing stuff on the trombone that I couldn't believe. And I was studying classical trombone. I went through the whole classical trombone pedagogy. By the time I was 17, it was all state. But it wasn't the same language. It was scales and intervals. Yeah, we did that. I played the Pittsburgh Symphony at 15. I was principal trombone at Pittsburgh Symphony Junior. I didn't even have to read that music because after I played it 4 or 5 times, I got to hear it. But it wasn't the same language, and I knew that. So I went, like we do to our parents, we imitate our parents. And I picked my jazz master heroes. And we had those record players that played 33 and a third, and we had, in the 50s, we had them that would play 16 and 2/3. And I put those jazz messenger records on. And it would slow it down by half and take it down an exact octave. And I was sitting in the dark for 6, 7 hours a day, playing every solo on every record. I still know today. I could play them today, I could scatter them today. And then one day I said, I can hear them talking, but I don't know what they're saying. I was only 14. So in 1993, I said, hey, I got some life experience. I'm going to revisit those songs and see if I can write what they might have been thinking. I started out with anthropology. I called Ahmed Jamal up. Ahmed. He calls me Prof. What's up, Prof? I said, I just wrote a lyric to anthropology. I sang it to him. You rascal, you. Keep it up. Okay? I kept writing, I kept writing, I kept writing. And I revisited those songs I memorized. I had about 10 songs. I called him up each time. I'm checking with the master to make sure I'm right. Because I don't want to be wrong. Because they will call me down if I'm wrong. Well, not only did they like what I did, they endorsed me. Some of the composers, like Randy Weston and Jackie McLean, they endorsed what I did with their song. Clifford Brown's with them. They liked what I did. What I was doing, though, consciously, not just writing frivolous lyrics, I was writing the folklore. I was telling the lifestyle and the experience that you see in those pictures, but you couldn't possibly, if you didn't live through it, you couldn't possibly know what it felt like. You couldn't possibly know how happy you could be as an oppressed person in a society that was trying to tell you every way they could that you were nothing, and you knew they just didn't get it. You didn't feel bad about it. You feel like, they just don't get it, do they? Because we knew what we had. Billy Eckstein told me, he said, we knew what we had. They told me that I couldn't sing anything but the blues. I wasn't going to have that. I was the first one that sang a ballad. They wouldn't let a black male sing anything. Kenny Clark told me, we knew what we had. We weren't going to let them turn us around because we knew they couldn't touch what we had unless they came our way. We don't have to go your way. We're losing that. We're trying to preserve it at AMI. We invite all of you to come. I invite all of you to join the Jazz Network. It's free. You get your own page. It won't cost you anything. If you don't do it, it's on you. So, here I am, having a dream come true. 25 years later, I'm sitting in Count Basie's band in Memphis, Tennessee, and he pulled out a song called 920 Special that I had played at 12 years old. I mentioned myself, I couldn't believe it. Wow. And when I joined that band, now this is, I tell this, I especially tell it to the music educators. I never rehearsed with them once. They don't rehearse. They just play it. They don't play it the way it's written. So if you're a great reader, you're in trouble already. Because it's a dialect, and they play street dialect. I let a young trumpet player here, a Sammy Nestico band, play a Sammy Nestico composition, and let him hear the Count Basie band play the same chart, just like two different words, because of the interpretation. There's something you put into the music. Well, thanks to Joe Westray, Warren Watson, I knew how to speak that language. I got through the first tune. I thought I was doing pretty good because I came in the middle of the tour. I replaced Fred Wesley in '78. So I turned to Mel Wanzo, who was the lead trombone player. I was playing second. I said, "What's next?" He said, "I don't want you to lean on me too much." My first night. It was on. Now, are you ready or not? They sit and watch you and see if you know anything. If you don't bring anything to the table, they'll give you a ticket home the next day. So I got through the first set, still nobody's talking to me. They were talking about me, but they weren't talking to me. Came out for the second set. Count said to me, first words he said to me, "You play the blues?" I said, "Yes, sir, I was born." Came out, played a couple tunes. He started playing a blues in C. Now, if I can't hear a blues in C, I shouldn't be in that band. Nobody should have to tell me what that is. And Mel said to me, when the chief looks up, "You go out front." I said, "Oh, he's talking to me now." That was my solo. So I went out front and then check you out. Now, you can't see the band when you're out in front of them. This was in New Orleans. When I finished my solo, I was saying something. I could hear the Count answering me on the keyboard. And I'd play something else and he'd answer. I said, "Whoa, this is all right." When I turned around to go back to my seat, they were all smiling. And I was in the band. Right? They're the best cats in the world. They're the warmest guys in the world. A couple months later, we were in Skokie, Illinois. John Clayton was a bass player when I was on the first tour. John had to leave and do a record for his brother. So he sent a student named Doug Miller from Indiana University to sub for 3 days. So after the first set, I'm standing over the corner with the Count and Freddie Green and Bobby Plater, who's the lead alto. And the Count says, "How you like the kid?" I said, "He's doing pretty good." He's not all right. He said, "I caught him watching my left hand. I played G, he played G. I played A flat, he played A flat. I played A, he played A flat. I want to let him astray. Ha, 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 ha." That's what they do in the real world. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The guys that trained me, if you would come up and you thought you'd do a song like something, How I Had Moon or something like that, change the key on you. See if you could play it in this key. See if you could play it in that key. If you can't, you got to sit down. That's the way we were trained. Okay, that's the way we're training the people at the AMI. That's the real training. If you come up on my bandstand with some sheet music, you can guarantee I'm going to change the key on you. I'm not going to allow you to shuffle papers when I'm trying to entertain the people. That's not what it's about. Okay? So, this great history that we have, the lifestyles, how these people had to think in order to prevail when their royalties were being stolen. They weren't making any real money, but that passion inside of them, it won't leave you if you ever get it. If you ever break through the sound barrier, that's why I try to get the young people to get it. Decode the sounds. Once you can decode the sounds, the whole world opens up to you. Any kind of music, whether you like it or not, you'll understand it. You'll understand the symphony better if you understand jazz. Because it's not a bunch of complicated notes. It's the same thing we do when we write a jazz composition. It's got the chord structure, it's got movement, it's got rhythm, it's got all that, and it's got melody and harmony. That's all it is. It's really no different, except in the performance of it in jazz, it's never the same. It's not a repeat of something somebody already made all the decisions on. So, when you go to the Pittsburgh Jazz Network, I can't give you a slideshow because I have too many of them. I only have a short period of time, which I already used up. But you can sit there for hours and see the videos and look at the pictures and read the annotations that are correct annotations. Because some of the annotations you'll see from the Teenie Harris collection are not correct. And you'll get some history that's never been written in a book. It's not in the library. I'm glad that the organizations like MCG, AMI, Heinz History Center are putting some traction, elbow grease behind this national treasure that the United States Congress named jazz a national treasure in 1987. It's the only art form in American history that's ever been named a national treasure, and it's over everybody's head. I talked to Billy Eckstein's two sons last night, or night before last, and I asked them, what impact has jazz being a national treasure had on the marketplace of jazz? They said nothing. Now these are guys that president of Mercury Records, you know, with Quincy Jones and all that. They know the industry. They've been to suits on the other side, although they're musicians too. No impact at all. That's our fault. That's our fault because we don't listen. So the best advice I can give you now is you can learn more about American history. You can study all the wars that they talk about. You can study the technological developments. That's fine. But if you want to know what was going on with the people, study the music. Not the names of the people and the titles of the songs. Listen to the song. Listen to the story that the song is telling you. Now here's a magical thing that will happen, and then I'll stop. I'll be a psychologist for a minute. You've heard of the left brain, right brain thing, right? I'm simplifying it a little bit, but when they split the brain back in the late 60s and studied the two hemispheres separately, to me, one of the greatest revolutionary discoveries was that music is heard primarily in the right temporal lobe of the brain. I talk to music educators, and it goes right over their head. They don't get it. They're still looking. So I tell my students, I teach at a charter school. We have 6th grade to 12th grade. I try to tell them, they can't hear it, but I try anyway. I do. I say, see that file cabinet over there? It's full of music. How far do you think you can carry it? Well, I couldn't carry that. That's what I know. I said, but you could carry all that music in your head. If you read it, you'll never remember it. If you hear it, you'll never forget it. Which one do you want? It's not a little bit of, it's either or. Because if you don't even like a song, and you can hear music, that song that you hate will be playing in your song until you put another song in there to get it out. You don't have to like it. But if you hear the sounds, they go into your permanent memory. And I don't care if you love Mozart. If you're reading Mozart, I've done it. In the universities, I've done it. I pulled the paper off the stand and the student has to quit playing. These are technical masters of their instruments, but they can't play without reading the manual. And they don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think they're missing the boat. So, here's what's happening today that we're on a battle line because they invented the drum machine around 1970. Now you know the drum machine is a computer. It has a quantized beat, which means it's mathematically perfect, right? It's a hypnotic device. I'm a professional hypnotist. I'm not just kidding you. Let you sleep. Bark like a dog. Act stupid. Pull your pants down to your knees. Okay. Whatever you do, you're told when you're hypnotized, that's what you're going to do. When we have kids walking around, they're hypnotized. From the time they're 6 months old, they have earphones in, listening to a hypnotic device. And then you have artists who are paid to feed some pretty crappy stuff into their minds. that they won't forget because it's coming in with music. It's coming in with music. If you were just standing up talking to people, they'd forget half of what they hear. But if you play music, they have a whole field called super learning that use Mozart to accelerate the learning process. It works. So be careful what you put in your ears. Choose what you put in your ears, and your whole life will change for you. If you go back and listen to these names that we put you, go to YouTube and watch Earl Garner never look at the keyboard. He's looking at the audience and smiling, right? Watch Bud Powell never look at the keyboard, and he's playing all this wonderful music. And think about what's really going on there. These are free people. They're free in their minds. Want to be free? Anybody not want to be free? I don't see any hands. It's not an automatic. It's not a given. There are people who will want to take your freedom away from you every single day. Jazz will keep your mind active and keep it free. Study the history and sound. You go to network, I have 100 sounds on the main page that represent this history. People like Sam Johnson that you've never heard of. I have the only recordings of him. He was Ahmed Jamal's stylistic inspiration. When you hear him play, tears will come out of your eyes. I played Sam Johnson. You never heard of him because he never made a commercial recording. I played Sam Johnson for Johnny Costa, and Johnny Costa, Jesus, where do you come from? They were born the same year. Never heard of him. He says, Sam, where are you getting all them chords? This is Johnny Costa. Right? There are people like that that you never heard of in the history that need to be known and celebrated. That's what the Pittsburgh Jazz Network is about. And God bless everyone else who's putting their shoulder to the wheel to try to push this thing forward for the next generation. Thank you.